introduction, I'm David Dale. I'm kind of the web admin for Granite City Gearheads. So I help manage all our websites and all the infrastructure that goes on behind our social media. So today we're going to give you a real crash course on everything from how to start a website to how to run social media pages and even have analytics data on your pages. So we'll cover a little bit of why social media and web are important at first. First, we're going to cover how to set up a website, in particular, how to find hosting options, and the basics of how a particular system that we use works. There are other systems out there, and I'll mention them briefly, but you have to look into them yourself if you really want to do that. We're also going to cover how to integrate social media with your website, so that, for instance, if you have a blog post, it will go on your social media automatically when you post it. We're also going to, I don't believe I remember to include this, the like and share buttons in your site, but there are ways to do that with Wordpress plugins, so I'll mention that briefly when we get to it. We'll cover a little bit on how to add analytics tools to your website and how to use the already in place analytics tools on your social networks. There's also a little bit of a boost up at the end, just a couple other tools that are handy for social media. Yeah. And this is Lori, who's my mom. I roped her into mentoring the team my second year, and she is still here, even though I've been a mentor for 4 years now. So she kind of handles our Facebook and Instagram content as well. So with social media, you know, there's a Make It Loud award. Social media's purpose is really to help first teams make it loud. In terms of getting your message out there to the community, talking to sponsors, talking to other teams, social media is a key component in all of that. It's going to help you when you want to find new sponsors and students and mentors. It's something that a sponsor, you can point them to, where they can go and look at what you're doing, and it's like, oh, so that's what these students are learning, you know, new students you may see. Maybe your social media posts help your friends get a little interested, and even in the community at large, you can find mentors who may have stumbled across your social media page even. It's going to encourage community interest in your team. For instance, the district follows our Facebook page, and they actually share some of the stuff that we post when we are doing well or when they find it interesting. You can keep parents and sponsors up to date with what you're doing. If you're a parent in the room, which maybe not a ton of you, but you ever have one of those kids who just comes home, how was your day? Fine. How was robotics? Fine. Well, that'll help a little. That's all the parents are getting out of their kids. Also helps build relationships with other teams. There are other teams out there on Twitter, on Instagram, even a little on Facebook, and you'll be able to interact, see what they're doing, talk to them. You'll learn about events that they're hosting that you can go to and be a part of. And also, in terms of building skills with your students, marketing skills for certain, anytime you're dealing with social media or web, that skill is going to wind up being built. And if you do go into the more technical side of the web part, you also have a very rich opportunity to teach students programming skills. Those down to, if you want, literally building a server basically from the backbone. And if you really want to get that in depth with it, you can. And there's certainly some cool things you can do with that if you do. So we're just going to give a real crash course on websites. Before we move into free hosting, go back one. I just want to do a quick survey of what kind of websites you guys have, if any. So if you know what kind of website, first off, whose team doesn't have a website in here? Okay, so most teams in here do have a website from the sound of it. So I'll go through this kind of fast then. How many of you use a free hosting service like some of the ones on this slide? Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, FreeWebs, or WordPress.com? Okay, so there's a few teams that use sites like that. So some of what we're going to cover in this presentation has to do with WordPress sites, so that may not apply to you. Do you know, if your team has a WordPress site, do you want to raise your hand as well, just so I have an idea? Okay. Do some of the other people over here not know what exactly their teams are maybe using for websites at all? You don't know what your team's using, or? Yeah, okay. All right. So, if you're looking to start a website, I emphasize maybe you already have one of these options for a free host. These are what I recommend for if you really want just a free site, WordPress.com. Because if you start actually wanting to go onto a paid hosting service with more control, chances are you will wind up using WordPress in the long run. And WordPress.com is just way easier to transfer to the open source version of WordPress. I'll cover that in a minute. If you do use a free hosting service, they are still going to charge you if you want a custom domain name.
So very much though. It's like $14 or something.
It depends. Generally, if a domain name is over $20, then it's overpriced. Nice per year. So otherwise, if you don't pay for a custom domain name, it's going to look something like teamname.weebly.com, .wix.com, whatever. And it's just going to look a lot more professional if you do go for that custom domain name.
For example, we are Granite City Gearheads.com.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So with WordPress, there's two different systems you should be aware of. WordPress.org is an open source content management system. It's not the only content management system out there. There's others like Drupal that are also available. WordPress is free to use on any different server you can install it on. So basically you download it and you can install it wherever. Its main features are its ability to host a blog and its ability to host web pages. And it's fairly basic in that regard. Features a lot of pre-made themes for layouts, and you can also design your own theme. And its probably most powerful feature is plugin ecosystem. There are thousands of WordPress plugins out there to do whatever you want your WordPress site to do. So for instance, you want to add a site calendar to list all the events your team has. You can integrate a photo gallery. There's all kinds of different things. I'm trying to think. There are some that are more back-end things like analytics. There are plugins that will help you add analytics to your site. Right? Search engine optimization, there are plugins for that. And it's a lot of different options. You'll kind of learn that as you start diving more into WordPress. WordPress.com is a free hosting service for WordPress sites. They have free and paid plans that are a lot more limited on what you can do in terms of themes and plugins. You generally can't add custom ones of your own. So it's much more limited in terms of what you're able to do. But if you're still looking just to run a basic login website and you have no budget, then it's still a good option. Managed hosting is when we actually start getting into paying for a website. And generally, I would say that's going to run a team at most around $100 a year. Mainstream providers, GoDaddy, HostWinds, HostGator, Bluehost, and there's probably several thousand others if you start Googling for different options. There's literally that many web host companies out there, so it's a very competitive marketplace. You can find a good price if you look for it. Go back one. I was going to talk just a little bit about some of these hosts. GoDaddy is the one we're currently on. Their customer service, if you're looking to deal with their tech support or whatever, it's okay, but expect to be waiting a long time to actually get a hold of them. Like even their text chat takes an hour at times to actually get on hold of them. HostWinds, that's another one I've actually used for a website of my own. Their tech support is very good and very quick about getting back to you, which is one of the things I love about them. I haven't used the other two. These are just two names that I'm familiar with off the top of my head. Yeah. Managed hosting is typically divided into different plans, and they'll usually fall within one of these categories, even if the naming is a little different. Managed WordPress, this is a WordPress installation. Typically it has no access to the Linux backend, and it's a lot like WordPress.com, but you still have the support for custom themes and plugins that WordPress.com would not. So if you're not looking to dive in very deep or technical, this is where you would want to go. Shared hosting. Hosting, in terms of what it is practically, you have multiple websites that are stored on the same server. You have very limited access to the Linux backend, and that's usually available through web admin software called cPanel, and all of the server company will provide to you. VPS, this is where if you want to start tinkering with a web server in depth, this is where you want to start going to probably. They have a full Linux server running on a virtual machine. The hardware is still shared on a virtual server that runs virtual machines, but overall it's a pretty good option because you have full access to the command line. Basically, just about anything you want, you can do on this. So if you want to really dive into the programming aspect, great place to go. And if you're really, really hardcore and you want to maintain your own hardware, or you want to lease a dedicated server because you're expecting a very high traffic load, which would be a little bit unusual for an FRC team, but then that's where you would want to look at this. If you start going into the self-hosted, maintaining your own hardware, you'll probably need at least a basic PC to do that, and you'll have to have a router that's configured to port forward to that PC, and you will still need to purchase a custom domain name from a hosting provider. Yeah, and if you have any questions on that, you're welcome to ask them. Feel free to raise your hand anytime if you got a question too. So if you do go into that more deep technical route, I'm going to cover that very briefly. If you want to build and install a server from scratch on a VPS or a dedicated server, then you should kind of understand how Linux servers work, just because Linux is the most common server platform on the web. So Linux is just your operating system, and they call this the LAMP stack, this particular server setup. Apache is a web server software that's installed on Linux, and basically it just delivers pages to the browser, knows what files to process to actually load a page, etc., etc. Another common alternative is Nginx, which is another, basically does the same thing, any kind of software. MySQL is a database software, stores all the information like page content and user logins. Basically, anytime you want a responsive, interactive website, you will need a database system. MySQL is the only one that's supported for WordPress. Postgres SQL Server is probably the other most common to be found on Linux systems. Microsoft also maintains a SQL Server product, but it's very much for their own web framework that you would probably be likely to find that. And that either that or if you're running an AMP stack on Windows. You might find it as well. PHP is a programming language that is used to dynamically create web pages. There are other alternatives to it out there. PHP is probably the most common one. Perl, Python, Java, even C# if you start looking into Windows systems. But PHP is the one WordPress is coded in, so that's the one you'll need to run WordPress if you want to go with WordPress. If you're looking to design your own web pages, just a few things that you should know about. Hypertext markup language is what defines the structure of any web page. You'll find providing things like links, tables, images, and box layout features. So it's just the bare bones of what a web page is built with. Cascading style sheets, these work very closely with HTML, and if you wind up learning one skill, you're going to learn the other. It's used to change how a website looks, and it can provide a standard look throughout the site. It is really what that particular feature of CSS is good for, because basically you have one file that pulls all the information on how the website should look in terms of colors, background images, and things like that. They can be pulled across this whole site. It's kind of like frosting on a cake. The HTML is the cake, the CSS is the frosting that actually makes it look nice. There are various tools to make it a little easier to write CSS like Sass or Less. And there are frameworks as well that make it easier to work with, like Twitter's Bootstrap framework is very good if you're just kind of starting out and you know a little bit about CSS, but you want to make it easier to build a website on your own. JavaScript is a language that is used to make a web page interactive. Do not confuse it with the Java language we use to program our robots. Java can be used on the web, but it's both a legacy technology and a major security vulnerability. And the two are absolutely separate languages. Different companies developed them, they're very different. Different in terms of their functionality. Like I already mentioned, it's used in building dynamic reactive pages. Frameworks and tools like jQuery, Angular, React.js, or Vue are tools that you can use once you've learned some of the basics of JavaScript to start building. It makes it easier if you're dealing with a lot of complicated JavaScript and you want an easier way to build it. JavaScript is also the least critical to know. You could build a website without using any JavaScript whatsoever if you were determined to do so. Quick overview of WordPress. When you go into once you have it installed, well, there's a couple just things you know where to find. Posts, this is where you make your blog posts. Pages, you can create, edit, and manage web pages within that particular view. And media, that's where you can upload photos and videos that you would use on your site. And in the administrative function, the appearance will let you change and customize the theme that you use on your website. And it also lets you handle site navigation menus and sidebar widgets. Plugins. Plugins are managed and installed all through that particular menu item. Users, you can create and manage the users in that menu. And settings, there's kind of what doesn't fit anywhere else you can find here probably. And some plugins will also add their menus here, while others will simply throw their menu links on the main sidebar, which is a little annoying because it clutters things up sometimes.
David, I wonder if at the end if you could show them our...
Yeah, I'll probably show them our website.
They can see like posts and library.
Yeah, if we have time, I'll show that, so you get an idea of how it works. But user roles within WordPress, just the level of access that your users have. Subscriber, this probably has no application to most FRC teams, but it is an existing role within WordPress. It's if you want to let users sign in to comment on posts. Just comment spam is a common issue on the web, and for that reason, it's probably not worth the effort for most FRC teams to enable comments. They can probably just rely on their social media used for comments. Contributor. That's if you want a student to be able to write posts but not to be able to publish them directly. Like if you've got that freshman who really wants to be a part of the web team, this might be the role for them. And if they're not the first person to start a web team or something, just as a way to train them in so that they can't mess things up, but they can still do their job. Author, once you're at that level, you're free to publish blog posts at will. Know that you can't edit web pages. Editor is free to edit web pages, and this is probably the most common role for students because they're free to do everything that a student would need to do unless they're actually diving into the technical aspect of the site. Administrator. Administrator has full control of settings like the active theme, the plugin settings that anyone else would not have access to. You have to be very careful with who you're giving this role to because administrators can reset each other's passwords. It's a bad security feature, but it is there. So don't give that to someone you don't trust.
It can come in handy though, because remember what happened recently when we were trying to create...
Well, yes, there are places where it's not a bad thing, but it's not a good design. Yeah. So social media. I'm going to give a crash course in some of the various networks and what to do with them.
Go on.
Yep. And obviously, Facebook, probably one of the easiest ways to start out is a Facebook page. Easy to add a team of students to manage it, easy to make posts. Also very good, general public for the most part is going to be on Facebook. Facebook in my opinion. somewhat good for interacting with other teams, and also integrates well with Facebook as well. Twitter, short text message platform, and probably the best use is interacting with other teams. And just in terms of FRC, it's where you'll find a lot of teams have accounts, and it's an easy way to talk to them. And YouTube, not necessarily a social network, more of a video, a place to put your videos, but still good to know about. Don't be afraid to innovate and try other platforms. I haven't heard of any teams using Snapchat. I've heard of a few teams using Tumblr, but yeah. So basics of Facebook pages. Facebook is most useful for when you're trying to reach the general public, with your community at large, because a lot of adults have Facebook now, as opposed to Twitter or Instagram. Those are somewhat newer things to them sometimes. Key administration areas for your Facebook page. Publishing tools is very important. You can schedule posts and events here, so they'll go up at your designated times. You can also do the same with videos if you have them. Inbox contains all messages directed to your page, and you can also see comments on your posts from here and respond to them. Instagram will do the same if you connect it to your Facebook page. Settings, basically things like who are admins and moderators on your page. There's a couple other things that you can find in settings as well.
One thing they talked about in the other class is if you're a page admin, or I don't know, works with editors too, and you have your own page, make sure that if you're liking things, like your friend has put up a video you like or a picture, make sure that your liking is you and not as the team, otherwise it's going to show up as the team likes. Well, I think they had a Kim Kardashian thing, that was an example. You don't want the team liking something like that. So you make sure who you're liking it.
Yeah, like I said, Twitter, best used for connecting with other FRC teams. Twitter's user interface is not necessarily geared for the administration of a page. It's just fine for if you're using it individually and you just want to scroll through your feed. But Twitter maintains a second user feed that's kind of better designed for administration purposes, and that's called TweetDeck. Go online, take a look at it, and it basically it has multiple feeds on the same page, and you can use Twitter's lists feature to kind of build a user interface that's a little bit easier to work with. And the best way to start out on Twitter is just by following other teams you know. Ideally they're going to follow you back, and that'll help you just start building an audience. And that's the best and easiest way to start.
The same thing is true with Instagram.
Yeah. Just start following other teams, and some of them will start following you back. Instagram, just a way to post short photos and videos. It's good for interacting with both teams and fans, and it's a pretty convenient way to just point someone at photos of what your team has been doing lately. Keep captions in your photos short, because long ones will bore people and they will just scroll right past it in their feed. So, Instagram is also really a mobile app at heart, and the browser version is just complete garbage. So if you're looking to use Instagram, you will need someone with a phone who's going to be dedicated to using that. In terms of content on your pages, posting around 1 to 4 times per week on Facebook and 7 to 10 times per week on Twitter is the statistic I've seen for ideal. Posts with images or video are going to get more engagement than those that don't have that. It's just visual interest captures people's attention. And in terms of content, observe what other teams are doing and improve on it. That's the best advice I can give you on content. Hashtags. Hashtag OMG Robots is the unofficial official hashtag for robotics, be it Verse, Vex, or anything else really. And basically use it whenever you post post, especially on Twitter and Instagram, because using the hashtag just increases your exposure. For instance, on TweetDeck, you can set it to follow a hashtag, and anything that shows up on that hashtag will automatically display in one of the feeds. So you can get a thread for interesting posts that are popping up around the robotics community or whatever, even if you don't follow some of those teams. When it comes to integrating social media with your website, we're going to talk a little bit about how to automatically link your blog when new posts come up to your social media. So the key tool for this is called an RSS feed. Stands for really simple syndication. Any blogging platform like WordPress is going to have one of these. You can generally find your blog's RSS feed by adding /feed to your web URL. In most cases, sometimes you may have to look around a little bit to find it on your particular platform if it's a little weird and doing something different. So keep that in mind. Also, there are a few platforms that don't have RSS feeds. So if you don't, then you may be a little bit out of luck. And that's one reason to possibly look at WordPress if you don't have it. So one of the tools we use to automatically repost stuff is called If This Then That. And it's a service designed to connect different web applications. And basically an event will serve as a trigger to cause an update on another service. And this has a lot of possibilities beyond what I can cover in here. Here you can sync your profile pictures between networks. You can automatically repost your Instagram photos on Twitter. There's a lot.
Dozens.
Yeah, it has applications in home automation if you want to get into it. They have a lot of weird possibilities. So weird but great possibilities. So that's the kind of thing to look at on your own time and beyond the scope of social media. It has a lot of different applications. So in this case, what you want to do with it is once you have an account set up with it, create an applet that uses the RSS feed, and when a new post appears in the RSS feed, the social media post will appear with a link to it. Generally, that's going to have a delay time of about 15 minutes to an hour at the most, so it's not an immediate thing, but it saves you a lot of time because you don't have to go on and manually repost stuff yourself, which, it's a lot of work to do that across 3 or 2 social networks every time you make a blog post. It's going to save you a lot of time to do it that way. Generally, we set it so that the full text will appear on Facebook, but for Twitter, it's just the title and a link. Is what will pop up.
Or like with Instagram, it'll automatically publish to our Facebook page.
Yeah, well, I think that may even be set up through Facebook itself, actually. You can set up in Facebook to Instagram. So be mindful of that. You don't want to wind up double posting every Instagram post because you have both set up. And one caveat with the If This Then That is that you cannot use a feature to schedule a post within WordPress. It causes bugs because it shows up on the RSS feed before the post is actually live. And so If This Then That will basically fail when it tries to post it. You might be able to fix something like this with a custom WordPress plugin if you put the time into fixing it, but that's a level of PHP coding that you're going to have to learn and spend some time on if you really want to deal with that. MailChimp, this is a tool we use for email marketing. So we actually have a newsletter that will email out our blog automatically to people who are subscribed to it. Again, it uses RSS feeds, so it's going to rely on your blog having one of those. It's free for under 2,000 recipients, which, in other words, most FRC teams can use this without paying a penny. You just create an RSS campaign to automatically send out the blog posts. You can tweak the layout of the email. They're nice, fancy-looking emails, too. They're not just plain text, so it looks really professional. And you can also embed a sign-up form for the newsletter on your website. So for people who would like to get notifications about your team via email, maybe there's a sponsor who doesn't care about social media but would love to see more of your team's blog, this is the perfect setup. And you can also use this to have parents sign up for and kind of parent sponsors and use it to let them know about upcoming events. It's an easy way to send out emails to large groups, because it doesn't just have to be marketing campaigns that they can run, and you can send out an individual email to everyone on your mailing list. So analytics. Obviously, if we're not want to talk about doing well on social media, we need a way to measure how well we're doing. There's just basically I'm going to cover the native analytics tools for the most part on social media, and I'll also cover Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a service obviously provided by Google, and it's designed to provide analytics data for websites. You can track clicks driven by social media and other promotional tools. Well, for instance, they can tell if the link is coming from a search engine, from someone's email, if they came from a social network. You do need to have code embedded on every page in your site. There are some WordPress plugins that will help you do that, so don't worry about trying to go into every page manually and actually having to stick it in there if you're using WordPress. It gets easier than that. Google Analytics can be a very in-depth tool in terms of what it can tell you about who's visiting your website. It can tell you what browsers they're using, whether they're on a mobile phone or not, all kinds of stuff. Literally books have been written on how to use just Google Analytics. So if you really want to get into it, maybe pick up a book. Yeah. Facebook has its own analytics tools built right within the page manager. So you can just go to the insights section of your page, and for the most purposes, this is a really convenient tool that will tell you just about anything you would probably want to know about your Facebook page's audience. For instance, you find out when the followers, and you can measure your audience growth and decline through the followers and likes tab. Reach measures how many people your posts are reaching through things like likes, interactions, whatever. Posts can provide a per post breakdown of some of those statistics, so it may be a slightly more useful view than reach at times. Posts, events, and videos provides information on how each are respectively performing. So, Instagram, you need to convert your Instagram account to an Instagram business account before analytics is available to you, and it's only available in app. You can't find it in the browser. And Facebook has a similar chart that will tell, I think somewhere in there, that will tell you when your followers are generally online. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to help you identify the ideal times to be posting your blog. I find that generally, at least for us, later in the evening is generally a good time to post. Those that gets the highest amount of traffic. I think when people are getting home and getting on their social networks to see what their friends have posted that day or whatever, go back one. And this button right here, once you have set up the Instagram business account, which you can Google how to do that. I haven't done it myself. Look for this button in the app, and that will give you access to your analytics. Twitter also has its own analytics internal. You can find that at analytics.twitter.com. I haven't used this much personally yet, so I don't have a lot of insight on what all the different options are in here to look at. But it's probably the easiest one to use simply because it's already tied your Twitter without any extra effort. So, and YouTube channels also have their own integrated analytics. You can find that at youtube.com/analytics when you're logged into your channel. So with this, you can see information like how long is your subscribers watching your videos, for instance. If it goes over 5 minutes, are they just not watching anymore, do they quit? Get that kind of stuff, so it can help you measure how long your video should be, things like that. You can see where your video views are coming from. Are they coming from your Facebook page? Are they coming from the fact that you embedded it in your blog post? So, CFA is a free analytics dashboard, and this is good just to aggregate all the data in one place if you want to be able to take a quick look at how your social media is performing. So for instance, our recent Instagram post about the fact that we're learning to use pneumatics seems to be performing slightly better than our other Instagram posts on average. You can see the peaks and drops in how much traffic we're getting on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And it's all in one view. The free version of Sci-Fi does only support 5 widgets. The paid version, probably not worthwhile, but generally you can cover all your main social networks, plus Google Analytics that I've collapsed down here. You can also pull data from MailChimp as well. Basically just about any social media tool I think they're set up to integrate with. So this is a tool we don't use, but I figured I'd include it because it is a pretty powerful one when you start using it. It combines analytics and scheduling into one tool. So the free version can connect up to 3 social profiles, which is right about perfect for most FRC teams. For features, you get analytics, and then that analytics data is apparently integrated across all 3 networks, so you can compare what's working on one network versus what's not working on another. You can use it to run contests on your social media as well, apparently. And you can schedule posts across all 3 networks. If you're just looking, next slide. If you're just looking for post scheduling, Buffer is a good one to take a look at, because that's all it is post scheduling. It'll schedule your posts for you across multiple networks. And follower wonk is, if you're looking for an in-depth drill down on what your page or any other page's followers look like in terms of demographics for Twitter, follower wonk is the first place I would look at, because they provide a free breakdown of pretty much just about anything you might want to know about what your Twitter audience looks like. And if you want to find this PowerPoint again, and including any updates I made to it, write down this address, because that's where it's at. If your team would also like any help setting up websites, improving them, I'd be happy to help. So you can email me at daviddale.webmaster@gmail.com. So I'll show you guys our website as long as we have a little bit of time left, and go over some of the different features we have on our WordPress. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. So for those of you who are still here, I'm going to go over a little bit about some of the features in WordPress if we haven't used them before. And some of the things are unique to ours because we have plugins. Posts, really self-explanatory. If you go there, you'll just see a list of all the different posts we have, and we've been blogging for probably 5 years at least, so it's quite a long list. Add new, you can quick look at that. We do have a slightly different editor, and that's a plugin called CK Editor that provides it, and just offers you. It's a little bit easier to use than the other one, perhaps. Perhaps that they provide that as well. This is a plugin, and I believe it's called Time Events Calendar. Is it? Yeah.
All events are added.
All events. And basically, it's pretty similar to the posts. But if you're looking for, I found that this is the best calendar plugin out there, and I've tried a few of them. So that's what I would recommend if you want to add events to your website. Media, that's just where you upload photos. Yeah. And in terms of blogs, we usually blog about once a week. Just because more than that, there's not enough content, or less than that, there's not enough content to fill a blog usually. So a once weekly update is what has worked really well for us in terms of our blog content. Pages, pretty much all the pages you want are there. Yeah, and really anything that we have a page for is going to be in this list. Teams, that one's a little different. This one also comes from a plugin. This one right here. just look at Mentors 2018.
She's so ready.
So you can see, basically it provides a way to display all the mentors and members who are on our team, which makes for a really convenient thing on our website. If you want to look at the, don't look view posts on this, but go to granite.gearheads.com on the second tab, and I'll show you the result from this plugin. And then if you go to team and 2018 mentors. So this is what our mentors page looks like. So Corey could use a little bit of a better bio here. Yeah, you can see we have the twins, all the different mentors who are on our team. So it makes for a really nice way to display who's involved with our program. And if we go to back to the post edit thing, the other tab. So if we look in plugins right here.
Where do you want me to be?
Go down to plugins. I'll show you the plugins we use for some of those. So Google Analytics, this is a plugin that just adds the Google Analytics to every page on your site. Let's see. Where is that other one? CK Editor, that's the other one I mentioned, the editing. Scroll down a little more even. Click dismiss on this. We have a lot of plugins in place, so I'm trying to figure out which ones to mention to you. Team members, that's the one that we use to display who's on our team. Let's see. Ultimate Social Media Plus, we use this one to add some like buttons and things to our pages, which makes it easy for people to share them and whatnot. Yeah, I think that about wraps up all this stuff I wanted to show you guys. And if you have more questions.
What are some key details that
I would say the biggest key features on our website are going to be a blog that's active, a photo gallery, and a calendar. Calendar would be the three things I would say to prioritize the most. Then also in FRC, a way to display sponsors is important because it's one of the primary incentives you can offer your sponsors is to display them on your website. So we have a whole list of $1,000 sponsors are at the top. We have Grady, a whole bunch of them. And the other thing is just details on how to donate too. It was an important one to include on your site as well. You had a question as well?
Yeah, I noticed you had PayPal. Do you actually do any donations?
It's not common for us to get donations from that, but it is the way we collect donations from an online interface. So if someone wants to give online, that's the way we get it. Right now, we'd like to find a better system actually, because it's not ideal really, but we don't have one. This is the time in the event calendar that I mentioned. This is what it looks like as a sidebar widget. And if you view the full calendar, that's what it will look like when you put it on a page. We're kind of fortunate because it had a theme that worked pretty well with our website color. You might have possibly do a little bit more tweaking with it to make it look nice on yours, but
You cover over and give more information.
If you were going to, like, for your background, going to do some simple artwork or something like on Illustrator or InDesign, what would be the best resolution?
I'm not sure I have particular. Are you talking like pixels per inch?
Yeah.
72 is generally the recommended pixels per inch for web graphics, simply because you don't need to print them. That said, if you want them to be printer friendly, go with 300. The thing is, if you're using 300 pixels per inch, it's going to be slower to load. So it's kind of a balance there in terms of what you're looking for. If you're lucky I'm in a Photoshop class this semester, I probably wouldn't have known it. The other thing too is if you use a scalable vector graphic file format, you can sometimes style those with CSS as well, which is a really weird feature, but possibly a handy one to know. If you're using Illustrator. So, SVG file formats, if you're going to use something from Illustrator, consider that possibly depending on what you need to do with your project.
Okay. Except I just went to the Socket Range graphics department, and that's where I work most of his creators.
Yeah, and with the calendar, you can also set recurring events too. And if you're having trouble finding some of those plugins too, let me know. I'll be out the email that I put on the board, and I'm happy to help with any questions you have. And if you're having trouble with your website and you want to come down to our practices, even I can probably spend some time helping you here. Okay? So,